Is America fighting Israel's enemies in the Caribbean? Just last week, the U.S. Navy deployed 8 warships to the Caribbean to cut off drug cartel activity, the trafficking routes that feed fentanyl and cocaine into the United States. The Trump administration is moving forward on a war against the drug trafficking. Nicolás Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, is not too happy with this. He is accusing the United States of threatening him. Quote, "They are seeking regime change through military threat. Venezuela is confronting the biggest threat that has been seen on our continent in the last 100 years. Now, the Trump administration recently announced a $50 million reward for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of Nicolás Maduro. Claiming that they're trying to do regime change is not some great revelation, Nicolás Maduro. If they have a $50 million price on your head, it's kind of obvious that they'd rather you not be in power. Now, what does all this have to do with Israel and Israel's enemies? Well, it turns out that it has a lot to do with Israel's enemies. Before we go on, make sure to go into the description of this video below and download the free ebook that is available there. This is a collection of columns that I've published over the course of the last year and a half since the beginning of the October 7th war. It really gives you a feel, like almost like a diary, gives you a feel for everything we've been through in this war. So go ahead and download that ebook. What a lot of people don't realize is that the Islamic regime in Tehran, the Iranians, specifically their proxy Hezbollah, who you hear so much about Lebanon, is actually a major player in the drug trade in the Caribbean, specifically when it comes to Nicolás Maduro's criminal regime in Venezuela. You know, as I was reading all of this, I was reminded of a tweet by Tucker Carlson from back in March, where he was talking about Iran and the importance of America staying out of the Israel-Iran conflict. And he tweeted as follows, quote, "How many Americans have been killed by Iran on U.S. soil in the last 20 years? Compare that to the number of drug overdoses, suicides, or car accidents. Still think Iran is the greatest threat?" And I found it so ironic because Tucker Carlson obviously doesn't realize to what extent those very same drug overdose deaths in the United States are actually fueled by the Iranian regime. Let me explain this in detail. Back in 2011, the United States launched an investigation into the drug trafficking in which they brought a case against one Ayman Syed Juma. Now, Ayman Syed Juma is a Lebanese Colombian drug trafficker who had moved approximately 85 tons of cocaine through Mexico into the United States. According to the findings of the DEA and the Treasury, he had laundered up to $200 million a month of drug trafficking money. And according to the DOJ's indictment of Juma, the funds from those cocaine sales in the United States were then laundered through currency exchanges and used car dealerships in Latin America and in West Africa, and eventually made their way into Hezbollah's accounts in Lebanon. So the final destination of the money that was made from selling all this cocaine in the United States was Hezbollah. Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy, the enemy of Israel in Lebanon. In 2008, the DEA then launched Project Cassandra to investigate further Hezbollah's ties to drug trafficking into the United States. What Project Cassandra revealed, the findings were revealed in 2016, that Hezbollah had transformed from being a regional terrorist militia operating in the Middle East to being one of the world's most sophisticated global narco-terror organizations. Hezbollah operatives were directly managing the drug trafficking networks that were moving cocaine from South America, ultimately into Europe and the United States. They found that Hezbollah had laundered billions of dollars through the United States and Middle Eastern financial institutions. They used used car dealerships in the U.S. to launder drug money. The way they did this was drug money would be converted into vehicles. They would buy used cars. They would then ship these cars to West Africa, where the cars were resold, turned back into cash, and then the cash would eventually be transferred to Lebanon, to Hezbollah. Hezbollah, this way, became one of the largest drug trafficking organizations in the world, rivaling the cartels. The DEA concluded that Hezbollah had earned hundreds of millions of dollars per year from drug trafficking. The revenue stream fundamentally expanded Hezbollah's ability to wage war against Israel. Now, according to a 2020 report by Joseph Humire, who is an expert on all of these issues, who was just appointed a few months ago by President Trump to serve as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere Affairs. Now, according to a report that he published in 2020, quote, the Maduro regime and Hezbollah have exploited legal and policy vacuums to turn Venezuela into a central hub for the convergence of transnational organized crime and international terrorism. The Maduro regime in Venezuela and Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy, have been working together in organized crime, drug trafficking, and terrorism. Hezbollah's support networks in Venezuela operate through Lebanese and Syrian families that are based there, who are very much part of the Maduro regime and part of their criminal activity and their political apparatus. Humire's report goes on to explain that the Iranians in Tehran and the Maduro regime in Caracas in Venezuela have been working together now for years, with the Iranians providing weapons, training, and even funds that are keeping Maduro's regime afloat. Maduro's alliance with Tehran and Hezbollah is operational. It is a partnership that supports his regime while also channeling resources through the trafficking of weapons and drugs all the way back to Hezbollah to fund their terrorist activity. Let's sum this up. Cocaine and fentanyl is trafficked into the United States, destroying the lives of tens of thousands of Americans every single year. The profits from those drugs are then eventually laundered back into the hands of Hezbollah, who then uses those funds for the rockets, the drones, and the weapons that are aimed at Israel. The drugs that kill tens of thousands of America every year also fund Iran and its proxies in their war against Israel. So now, with U.S. warships deployed to the Caribbean, not only is America defending itself against the deadly drugs that kill tens of thousands of Americans every year, they're also cutting off a vital source of funding to the Iranian proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah, who has been attacking Israel for decades.